My boyfriend of 3 years abruptly dumped me via text because of someone else's Facebook. It feels like my entire world just flipped upside down. A few minutes ago, my boyfriend of 3 years dumped me through a text message. The reasoning? He somehow convinced himself that a Facebook profile he found, which isn't even mine, is evidence that I'm a lying bitch who plays games. And just like that, he said we're done. I'm still in shock because less than 2 hours ago we were talking and everything seemed perfectly fine. There wasn't even the faintest hint of trouble. Right now, I'm a few hours away from him, visiting my family for Father's Day and spending time with my dad. My dad's been going through a lot. He had a car accident recently that left him disabled, and it's been a struggle for him to adjust. I decided to stay with him for the weekend to help out and give him some emotional support. My boyfriend couldn't join me because of work, so he stayed behind. I had my phone on vibrate, and it was tucked away somewhere in my room. When I woke up, I noticed 2 missed calls from him, placed seconds apart. That was odd. He never calls like that unless something urgent is happening. I tried calling him back immediately, worried something might be wrong, but he sent me straight to voicemail after just 1 ring. What came next knocked the wind out of me. My phone started buzzing with a series of enraged texts. The first message was a screenshot of some random Facebook profile, a woman who apparently shares my name. Then came the accusations. He claimed I had been playing him for a fool and that he was done with me. Here's the thing. The woman in the profile looks absolutely nothing like me. She has black hair and blue eyes, while I have auburn hair and green eyes. I even have a beauty mark above my lip on the left side. This woman doesn't have one. How he could possibly think this profile is mine is beyond me. Before I could even defend myself, he blocked my number, my Facebook, and all other ways to contact him. I feel like the rug has been pulled out from under me. This came so suddenly, and now all I can feel is a mix of anger and heartbreak. I can't even let myself cry right now. I don't want my dad to hear me. He's already carrying so much on his shoulders, and the last thing he needs is to worry about me. For some background, my boyfriend cheated on me a few months into our relationship. I didn't find out until a year later, but when I confronted him, he was deeply remorseful. He promised to make it right and worked hard to regain my trust. Eventually, I forgave him because I thought he was genuinely sorry, and we moved forward together. But now, I can't help but wonder if this sudden breakup is just an excuse. Did he cheat again and need a way to deflect the blame? Or did he want to break up so he could cheat without feeling guilty? The timing is suspicious. Tomorrow is his birthday. Is he trying to free himself before celebrating? The thought alone brings tears to my eyes. One thing is for sure, I'm not taking him back. There's no way in hell I'll let that happen. The house he's living in is mine. His name isn't on anything. He can pack his stuff and leave. Even though I know I deserve better, I feel shattered right now. I invested so much time, love, and energy into this relationship. I forgave him for cheating, only to have him pull this absurd stunt, accusing me of being shady based on some random Facebook profile. I just feel lost. What can I do to pull myself together and start healing? If anyone has advice, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you all for the support and kind words. It's truly made a difference during this whirlwind of emotions. This morning, I decided it was time to handle things and reclaim my space. I didn't go alone. I brought 6 people with me, including my brothers and my uncle, who's a lawyer. When we arrived at my house, my ex was holed up in his computer room, completely oblivious to my return. He was engrossed in a game of League of Legends, chatting with his teammates through what I assume was Skype or TeamSpeak. I walked in, tapped him on the shoulder, and calmly told him to log off and pack his things. He didn't even turn around. Instead, he shrugged me off and kept playing like nothing happened. At that point, my patience was long gone. I bent down and unplugged the surge protector from the wall. That got his attention. He ripped off the headset, which, by the way, I bought for him, and tossed it across the room, hitting his monitor in the process. He jumped up, shouting about how I'd ruined his ranked game and how his stats were now messed up. His rage was almost comical if it weren't so ridiculous. Before he could go any further, One of my brothers stepped between us and told him he had 10 minutes to pack his belongings and only his belongings. Otherwise, we'd call the cops to have him forcibly removed. Then we all stepped out of the room and let him start. From outside, we could see him neatly unplugging his computer and stacking up his things. At one point, he tried to take my Ethernet cable. I wasn't having it. "That stays," I said firmly, and he backed off. A friend brought in a box for his stuff, and we all watched as he went around the house collecting the few items he owned. The entire time, he was glued to his phone, likely venting on Facebook. Later, I learned he was posting some pretty nasty things about me, but honestly, that's childish nonsense. I don't have the energy to care. When he finished, he carried a box of clothes, sneakers, DVDs, and games to his beat-up 1995 Honda. Then, he made an exaggerated show of carefully loading his computer into the car. What struck me the most was how detached he seemed, more focused on his League of Legends game and his computer than anything else. He didn't make eye contact, didn't speak to me, and radiated hostility. I sat on the stairs, quietly watching as he went back and forth, while my friend Jess recorded everything on her phone for safety. She's sharp like that. Despite my calm exterior, anger was simmering just beneath the surface. A small, petty part of me wanted to throw something at the back of his head, but I held back. He isn't worth the energy, positive or negative. 15 minutes later, he drove off without so much as a glance back. My uncle gave me a big hug before leaving, and the rest of us relaxed with some pizza and TV. It wasn't a dramatic scene, but it was emotionally draining. Once everyone left, the silence hit me like a ton of bricks. When I'm alone, my mind keeps replaying everything he did and said, making my anxiety spike. To cope, I threw out all my bedding and sprayed my furniture with deodorizer, some irrational attempt to purge the space of his presence. It's silly, I know, but it felt necessary. Today, I'm planning a trip to Bed Bath & Beyond for new bedding. I've decided to treat myself because, looking back, I realize how little I cared for myself while I was with him. Spoiling myself, whether with new clothes, makeup, or even a game, always made him suspicious, as if I had some hidden agenda. That's his problem, not mine. Being single after such a long relationship feels daunting, but I know I'll be okay. In fact, I'll be better than okay. Getting him out of my life feels like removing a cancerous growth. I've even set boundaries with friends and family. No one is allowed to talk to me about him. A friend mentioned he's flooding Facebook with pictures of himself smiling and pretending to be happy. I don't want to hear it. If he's thrilled to be back in his mom's basement and chasing after questionable women, so be it. In the long run, whether it's months or years from now, I'm certain he'll realize how badly he screwed up. When that moment comes, I hope it stings. For now, I'm changing the locks and adding extra security to the house. Even though I took his keys, I don't trust him. When he was younger, he vandalized people's property out of spite, and I wouldn't put it past him to do it again. Tomorrow, I'm also heading to the doctor for a full checkup. I don't feel like anything's wrong, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. This entire experience has been a lesson, a painful but necessary one. He hasn't ruined my outlook on future relationships. If anything, he's done me a favor by raising my standards and reminding me of my worth. I now know what kind of person I deserve, and it's someone far better than him. Thank you all again for your advice and encouragement. You've helped me see things more clearly, and for that, I'm truly grateful. Now on to the next story, story 2. My parents took down all the trophies in the house except for my sisters. I'm 21F and the fourth of 6 siblings. Our ages range from 30 to 18, an older brother, 30, 2 older sisters, 27 and 22, a younger sister, 20, and a younger brother, 18. Out of all of us, my second eldest sister, and 22F, has always been the golden child, not in a way where the rest of us were treated as scapegoats, and just shined in everything she did, growing up and seemed unstoppable. She maintained straight A's through school, constantly brought home trophies for being MVP or champion in sports, and excelled on academic teams. Our parents proudly displayed her accomplishments on shelves that always seemed to overflow. They even added more shelves for her growing collection. The rest of us weren't slackers. We all participated in sports or activities and earned our share of trophies and medals. Each of us had shelves dedicated to our achievements, even though they didn't match Anne's in quantity or prestige. For example, my older brother was great at lacrosse, and I did well in soccer and swimming. My younger sister excels in academics, and my youngest brother is a skilled weightlifter and wrestler. Despite our varying levels of success, there was always a shared pride in what each of us accomplished. And I were closest in age, just a year apart, and while there was some sibling rivalry, we actually got along well. We even played on the same soccer team growing up, which was the one sport where we were on equal footing, though, and still managed to snag the MVP title. I'll admit, there were moments when I felt envious, but I knew and wasn't the type to flaunt her success. She worked hard, and it wasn't her fault that our parents celebrated her achievements so prominently. Fast forward to now, and I both attend college near our parents' home. Recently, our parents finished remodeling their house, and since they had been busy moving and renovating, neither of us had visited in a while. They invited us over to celebrate the remodel, and during the tour, they proudly showed off the new living room, complete with a massive display shelf for trophies. At first, I assumed they'd consolidated all of our awards into one place. But later, when everyone else was outside on the deck, I wandered back into the living room to take a closer look. That's when I realized all the trophies were Anne's. Every single one. I couldn't believe it. Anne's accomplishments were impressive, sure. But what about the rest of us? My older brother's lacrosse trophies, my swimming and soccer awards, my younger sister's academic plaques, and my younger brother's wrestling medals gone. The shelves that once represented all of us now celebrated only Anne. I checked the rest of the house, thinking maybe our trophies were moved elsewhere, but they weren't. They weren't displayed, tucked in a closet, or even in the garage. I can only assume they've been put in storage, or worse, thrown out. Our parents always treated us equally, or so I thought. They never showed favoritism, at least not openly. Yet now, it feels like they've erased the rest of us to spotlight, and the thing is, Anne didn't ask for this. She's not the type to seek attention or expect to be treated differently. This is all on my parents. I feel insulted. Soccer was a huge part of my life growing up, and I still play in college. Sure, I wasn't a star player, but I was good enough to earn recognition and trophies. To see all of that dismissed like it didn't matter hurts. Am I being petty for feeling this way? Part of me wants to storm up to my parents and demand answers, but another part wonders if I'm overreacting. Is it immature for a 21-year-old to feel this upset over trophies? I'm not sure how to approach my parents. Right now, all I want to do is yell, "Screw you guys," but I know that's not a reasonable reaction. If I do talk to them, I want to express myself calmly and clearly. But what do I even say? If anyone has advice, I'd really appreciate it. Am I justified in feeling this way, or is this just sibling jealousy rearing its head? The night I wrote my initial post, I decided to talk to Anne about the whole trophy situation. I pointed out that the new shelf in the living room only displayed her trophies, hoping to get some clarity or maybe even some understanding. Instead, the conversation left me more frustrated than I could have imagined. Something about being away from Anne for so long had made me forget how her personality had shifted over the years. Growing up, I admired her work ethic and success, but it hadn't occurred to me how much her ego had grown. When I showed her each trophy and read the nameplates, she smirked and said, "Well, of course they're my trophies. When was the last time you got better than bronze?" Her response caught me off guard, but I pressed on, asking if it didn't bother her that the rest of our trophies had been stashed away or discarded despite how much effort we all put into our activities. She shrugged and replied, "No, dedication doesn't make you a winner." That stung. When she dismissed me entirely by saying I was wasting her time and told me to grow up and get over myself, I finally realized just how much things had changed between us. Then she walked off to join our parents, and I was left standing there, feeling humiliated and hurt. It finally hit me in that moment, and wasn't just the golden child. The rest of us had been cast as supporting characters in her story. Over the years, Our parents had shifted their focus entirely onto her, and I'd been too blind to see it clearly. I wanted answers, so later that evening, I pulled my parents aside to talk. I asked why they had chosen to prioritize Anne's achievements while disregarding everyone else's. Their response mirrored Anne's. They told me I hadn't earned a spot on the shelf, and that my trophies had been thrown out because they didn't impress anyone the way Anne's did. They even said that I was an adult now and should suck it up. I don't think I've ever felt so hurt in my life. Looking back, the signs had always been there, but I had ignored them. I remembered how they always chose Anne's games or competitions over mine, even when they were on the same day. They brought snacks and drinks to support her events, but never mine. They hosted celebrations at our house for Anne's successes, but didn't do the same for the rest of us. For years, I told myself these feelings were just jealousy and pushed them aside. My relationship with Anne had mattered more to me than anything, and I didn't want resentment to ruin it. But now, it was clear that the relationship didn't mean as much to her. Her ego had been fed for so long that it had grown into something unrecognizable. Hearing my parents say outright that our accomplishments didn't matter as much as Anne's was the final straw. The fact that they threw out everything we'd worked hard for felt like a slap in the face. I was so angry and overwhelmed that I decided to leave. As I was heading out, my parents yelled at me for causing drama. Once I got home, I decided to let my siblings know what had happened. I felt they had a right to know that their trophies had been removed, even though I tried to explain it as neutrally as possible. That effort didn't really work, though, because it set off a chain reaction of chaos in my family. My younger brother was so upset that he called our parents in tears. My older sister took a more aggressive approach and started a round of passive-aggressive and outright aggressive phone calls with Anne. My little sister called me crying, devastated by the whole thing. Things went from bad to worse when Anne sent a group text to all of us. It was a backhanded apology that said, in essence, "I'm sorry I'm better than you, but I deserve our parents' love more than you do." As you can imagine, that didn't help anything and only fueled the fire. Now my family is in complete disarray. Nobody is talking to each other without it turning into an argument, and the whole situation feels like a massive, dramatic mess. This has been, without a doubt, one of the worst weeks of my life. I hate how things have spiraled, and I don't know if we'll ever be able to fix it. So yeah, there's my update. My family's a disaster, and I feel stuck in the middle of it all.